Hi, Reverend Dave here. So glad that I can be with you, especially as I'm get the opportunity to tell you some amazing stories from my Storyteller's Bible. Some really great stories about Jesus, about God, and I'm really sure you'll enjoy this one. This one is called Jesus' Special Friends. Jesus grew up in a place called Galilee, where there was a large and beautiful lake. And it was there that he began the work God gave him to do. God is like a king, he told the people, and he wants all of you to be a part of his kingdom, to love him and to love each other. People liked to hear Jesus talk. In fact, one morning, the crowd was so huge that Jesus was nearly pushed into the sea. "Excuse me," Jesus asked the fisherman, "could I borrow your boat for a while?" The fisherman's name was Peter. "Of course," he said. "It's doing me no good. I was out all night and I didn't catch a thing." Jesus climbed into the boat. Peter rowed it a little way from shore. And from there, Jesus talked to the crowd. When he had finished, Jesus sent the people home. And then he turned to Peter. "Let's go a little further out," he whispered. "I'd like to catch some fish." Peter tossed back his head and laughed. "I told you, my men and I were out all night. We caught nothing." Jesus didn't say a word. He just smiled and looked across the lake. "All right," Peter sighed, "if that's what you want." So Peter sailed to the deepest part of the lake. Then he dropped his fishing nets over the side. It took no time at all. The nets started pulling and jerking and stretching. And it was all Peter could do to keep the boat from tipping over. "Help!" Peter called to some friends. "Help me, please!" And they rowed to him as fast as they could. Then, all together, the men pulled on the nets, and the fish came tumbling and slapping onto the decks of both boats. Red fish and blue fish, and not just one or two fish. So many, in fact, that the boats would have sunk had the fishermen not rowed back to shore quickly. Peter looked at the fish. Peter looked at his friends. Then Peter looked at Jesus and fell to his knees, trembling. "Only God or somebody full of his power could do that," Peter said. "And why would someone like that want to go fishing with the likes of me?" Jesus shook his head and smiled. "Don't be scared," he said. "God has given me a lot of work to do, and I need helpers. Helpers like you and your friends. Once you've finished fishing for fish, but from now on, you'll be fishing for people and helping me bring them to God." Then Jesus stepped out of the boat and walked away across the shore. "Come with me," he said. Peter and his friends watched him go. They looked at the fish. They looked at each other. Then they dropped their nets, left their boats behind, and raced off to follow Jesus. Brilliant story. I want you to imagine for one moment that you were one of those fishermen on one of those boats, and you saw this amazing thing that Jesus did. And then he says to you, "Stop what you're doing. Come follow me." What would you do? There's a thought. Thank you.